Welcome to the Paradigm Shifting Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration, hard truths, and authentic discussions about motherhood, marriage, and self-improvement. I'm your host, Binky Bell, and I believe that marriage and motherhood should be an empowering experience for women. I believe that when we focus on improving ourselves individually, then together we can shift these paradigms that are leaving us feeling burned out, inferior, and victimized. This podcast is for growth-focused women who want to live life with intention and meaning. So with that being said, let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to very briefly go over Principle 3, which is turning towards your partner instead of away. This principle is it's really heavy, and there's kind of a lot in the book. If you're reading the book along with me, it's a very heavy chapter. So what I might do, I think I'm going to end up breaking this into two parts. So today we're just going to go over what we mean by turning towards our partners. We're going to go over what bids are, and we're going to talk about the easy ways that we can miss them. Also, towards the end, I'll be giving you a little quiz to see how primed your relationship is for romance. So let's get into it. Like I said, this principle is really, really heavy, and it's really interesting to me because it's a very simple concept, but it's also incredibly complex. And I think this principle actually calls us to up our emotional intelligence a little bit, and you'll see why whenever we get into it. So the principle is turning towards our partner instead of away. What does that mean? Turning towards what? Bids. We're turning towards bids. Now, what are bids? John Gottman coined the term in this sense, and what he means is bids for attention. A bid is an attempt from one partner to another to get affection, attention, affirmation, or any kind of positive connection. Now, bids can be really simple, something like a wink, a smile, a pat on the backside, or they can be more complicated and complex, like asking for advice or support or help with a situation. Now, for those of you listening to the audio-only version, you can find a list on my Instagram, but I'm going to provide a list here on my YouTube of examples of small bids for connection. You can look at them and we'll just go over a couple really briefly so you kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. So when our partners say things like, hey, did you see that squirrel or that car or that boat? That is a bid for attention. It's asking your partner to pay attention to what I say. Are you paying attention to what I'm saying? When our partner or we say things like, come cuddle with me while I watch TV, that's a bid for affection. When our partners say, I've been cooking or working all day, I'm really tired, that's a bid for help. It's saying, help me de-stress. So turning towards your partner is to turn towards these bids. It's to pay attention to what our partner is really saying. And what that requires from us is to pay attention to not only the text, so to pay attention not only to what exactly they're saying, but to pay attention to the subtext, so what they mean behind what they're saying. The way that I think of it, it really relates closely to a lot of what we hear in peaceful parenting groups. If you're a member of the peaceful parenting community or you practice peaceful parenting, you'll remember that a lot of what we talk about is identifying the need behind the emotion in our children. So when our children say things or do things, we've kind of trained ourselves to look for the meaning behind it. And this is kind of what it means to turn towards these bids. So an example of that as it relates to relationships, whenever our partner says like, I really wish you'd just shut your phone off when we're watching TV together. That is a bid for attention. Even though the delivery is harsh, the delivery is negative and maybe even unkind, we have to train ourselves to look for what the subtext is saying, what they really mean and what they really need. Now, one of the ways that we miss bids is by responding to the negativity instead of responding to the emotion or the need behind it. When our partner's bid is kind of wrapped around a little bit of negativity or it's delivered in a harsh or critical way, we respond then to that negativity, often with defensiveness, and we miss the opportunity to address the underlying need. The other way that we miss bids is by actually legitimately just missing them completely. And the biggest contributing factor to us missing them completely is electronics, paying attention to our phones, being on, our gaming consoles or on the internet, watching TV, just literally zoning out on electronics and completely not hearing the things that our partners are saying. This actually happened to me this morning while I was working on this episode. I was typing away at the kitchen table and my husband was trying to tell me some funny story and I legitimately did not hear him. And whenever he brought it to my attention, like, hey, I'm talking to you, like, I told you a funny story, the least you could do is laugh. My response was to be defensive, and I told him, like, I'm working. You see that I'm working here. Like, why are you talking to me whenever I'm working? That was a missed bid on my part. Why are bids important, and why does it matter if we miss them? This part of the episode is really for men. I really want men to hear this because during John Gottman's research, he found that men miss more bids than women. So if you're a man watching this and you want to dramatically, I'm not kidding, dramatically improve the quality of your relationship, just pay attention to this last bit for me. So part of John Gottman's research was to take newlywed couples and observe and interview them during the newlywed phase. Then he met with them 6 years later, interviewed them, studied them again. He found that the couples who made it the 6 years, who did not divorce, they were really good at turning towards each other's bids. In fact, those couples who stayed married, they turned towards their partner's bids 86% of the time. Meanwhile, the couples who divorced, they only averaged 33%. They only turned towards 33% of their partner's bids. So what's incredible about that single observation from this study is that it suggests that turning towards our partner's bids can dramatically alter the course of your marriage. Whenever we think of a relationship being in a rut, we often tend to think that, the thing that will help is to go be alone, go on a vacation alone. This is something that I think maybe it's just me. I think that all married couples with kids have often kind of fantasized about leaving the kids with grandma, going to Hawaii for a week and just being alone, right? That'll somehow reignite like this romantic spark in the relationship. And we've also been kind of spoiled or misled by Hollywood to think that relationships can be saved with these big romantic gestures, or that romance is even something that's grand and sweeping. But what's really meaningful, that really actually sustains a relationship, is the mundane aspects of everyday life with your partner. So those vacations and times alone, that time that you get alone, those times will only be romantic if you've been pouring into your relationship consistently. So Gottman designed this little true-false quiz to help you get a sense of how your relationship is faring and if it needs work in this area. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read a series of statements and you are going to keep track of how many you believe to be true. Just count the true ones. So number 1, we enjoy doing small activities together like washing dishes or watching TV. I look forward to spending my free time with my partner. At the end of the day, my partner is glad to see me. My partner is usually interested in hearing my views. I really enjoy discussing things with my partner. My partner is one of my best friends. We just love talking to each other. We're spiritually very compatible. When we go out together, the time goes very quickly. We always have a lot of fun together. My partner is one of my best friends. My partner tells me when he or she has had a bad day. I think my partner would consider me a very close friend. We tend to share the same basic values. We like to spend time together in similar ways. We really have a lot of common interests. We have many of the same dreams and goals. we like to do a lot of the same things. Even though our interests are somewhat different, I enjoy my partner's interests. Whatever we do together, we tend to have a good time. Now, did you keep track of how many were true? Because Gottman says that if you mark 12 or more as true, then you're doing good. You're doing this. You're turning towards each other's bids. You genuinely enjoy each other's company. You enjoy and gain value from the mundane, everyday parts of life. If you got less than 12, all that means is that this is an area of your marriage that you can improve on. And the good news is that it's really easy to improve in this area of your life. And it starts with turning towards bids. So the exercises for this week, for this part of Principle 3, is really pretty simple. First, focus on the times that your partner does turn towards these bids, and thank them for that. Thank them for, the times where you say, I really don't feel like cooking dinner, like I'm really tired. And they say, I hear you, don't worry about it, I'll cook dinner. Things like that. That is turning towards a bid. You're expressing that you're tired, you need help de-stressing, and they hear the subtext of it. They don't just say, sucks to suck, right? Now, the next part of the exercises is to look for and pay attention to the bids that your partner is giving to you, and then obviously respond to them. The best thing about turning towards bids, and the best thing about this principle and this exercise, is that it is incredibly simple. It's incredibly simple, and it gives great results. It has a snowball effect where the action required is very simple, but it turns into huge results, and it can, like I said previously, it can greatly alter and improve the course of your marriage. Next week, because like I said, this principle starts out kind of light and maybe even obvious, but then it gets really heavy, and there are some troubleshooting exercises that we're going to go over. So next week, we're going to talk about what to do when your partner doesn't turn towards you, when he or she isn't turning towards these bids. And we're going to talk about Gottman's tips for dealing with your partner's anger and sadness and crying. Because often what happens is we turn towards our partner's bids and they open up to us, and maybe we aren't prepared for what they want to deliver to us, right? So we're going to talk about how to deal with our partner's anger and sadness and even crying that comes up in stressful conversations. So as always, check my Instagram. I will be making posts about this, and all of the information will be saved in my 7 principles highlight on my Instagram at Paradigm Shifting Podcast, where you can screenshot the exercises and screenshot whatever information you might need. So thank you guys for being with me, and I will see you next week for the second part of Principle 3.